radio there? That must have a petrol engine in it. No, it's the one over there, you numpty. Oh, it's like in tune with that. Moves on that one, Connor. See it? Yeah. They're like the only models that you can't get tanks of. I know, DC-57. Did you tell me you wouldn't get one tank of anything else?
We bought it. You got to wear it now. That's disgusting. But I've got a video of him crying.
This will be something to tell my grandchildren about. Bye then.
No, it's okay.
Behind you. Oh, behind you. Oh, behind you in here.
Watch me, I'm going to run to the...
Cut that bit, and then just a few here.
Without further ado, but I'd like to say it gives me enormous pleasure this morning to declare the second day of TankFest 2017 is open.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Richard. The second day is underway, and very shortly we will get on with our first live performance in the main arena when the Leopards will take to the sand for shock and awe. Ladies and gentlemen, the Leopards.
Pro Leopards.
about to see how a Royal Armoured Corps Challenger 2 tank and an infantry warrior work in close cooperation to assault and neutralize an enemy position. It is shortly before HR, and the Armoured Squadron and Infantry Company Group are about to launch an attack from the Forming Up Point, or FUP, and the fire plan is being executed. The Battle Group Commanding Officer coordinates the attack by counting down to HR.
Hello, Charlie 1, this is 0 Alpha. HR in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, go, go.
The assault tanks bypass the enemy objective and form a ring of steel to isolate it from reinforcement. The intimate support tanks lead the armoured infantry onto the objective. An enemy trench has been identified by the Challenger 2 tank. Its location has been passed to the Armoured Infantry Platoon Commander, who tasks the selection to clear it.
Hello, India 3-1 Alpha. This is Tango 1-2 Alpha. Reference my gun barrel, 50 meters. Enemy trench with 2 dismounts. I am suppressing.
The Challenger 2 tank provides overwatch to the infantry section and their warrior as they commence their assault. You can see how close the warrior gets to the enemy trench before dismounting its enemy section. This is deliberate, as it ensures that the dismounts spend the least amount of time as possible in the open.
Hello, India 1-3 Alpha. This is Zulu 3-1 Charlie. My dismounts are assaulting the position now. Over. India 1-3 Alpha. Roger. Out.
Once the fire trench has been cleared, the section will remount their warrior as soon as possible and prepare to be tasked to clear another position.
Hello, India 3-1 Alpha. This is Zulu 3-1 Charlie. Position clear, over. India 3-1 Alpha. Roger. Well done. A death position has been identified by a tank call sign. Mount up and prepare to move. Over. Roger, main up now. Out.
An indication of the sort of firepower Challenger 2 and warrior with its infantry dismounts can provide in the assault on an enemy position. The infantry section today are the infantry members of the Combat Communications and Information Systems School here at the Armour Centre. We are now going to see all the British Army vehicles re-enter and patrol the arena at the same time before we conclude our British Army display. Ladies and gentlemen, with the Challenger 2 leading, with the distinctive Royal Tank Regiment flag and the Union flag flying on the Challenger 2. They will come past the saluting base on this, the Armed Forces Weekend, that commemorates and remembers what all are the Royal Navy or the Air Force and the sacrifices they have made in recent times. Lieutenant General Richard Nugent. He is a Lieutenant General and appointed for 2016. He was commissioned into the Royal Artillery in 1986. Commanded his regiment in Iraq in 2003 and then the UN in Cyprus. He then spent some time in Kabul to coordinate the NATO drawdown from Afghanistan. And he will be taking the salute today on this Armed Forces Weekend. As you can see from the recent hive of activity in the arena, we have finished setting up for the battle, which this year focuses on the fighting in Normandy in the summer of 1944. As the Allied invasion force prepared for the largest seaborne invasion in history, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander Allied Forces Europe, delivered his eve of battle speech.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Operation Overlord is underway. The liberation of occupied Europe has begun.
a de longues moustaches. Je répète, Jean a de longues moustaches.
If you focus your attention on the arena, or for our purposes, occupied France, you can see French resistant fighters moving stealthily towards their planned objectives. In this case, a fuel dump. But before they can knock out this valuable supply base, they first have to eliminate the guards. Utilizing coded messages, hundreds of small groups of resistance fighters were activated to play a crucial role in interdicting supply and communication lines many miles away from the actual combat areas, consequently slowing down and delaying the German military's ability to quickly respond to the invasion. France, June 1944, D-Day. As dawn breaks, the horizon fills with the largest armada the world has ever seen. 150,000 men are about to be unleashed onto the beaches and fields of Normandy. Stretching over 80 kilometers from the Orne River in the north through to the Cherbourg Peninsula, the Normandy coastline is heavily defended by fortifications, anti-tank Dragon's Teeth, wire, minefields, and defending German troops. If you look to the center of the arena, you will see German forces from the 352nd Infantry Division setting up in a defensive position on a ridge, commanding views and lines of fire over Omaha Beach. This is the one featured in the film Saving Private Ryan. Omaha Beach, or La Plage d'Or, the Golden Beach to the French, is 7.5 kilometers long and overlooked by cliffs on either side. For the Allies, its importance cannot be underestimated. Failure to take Omaha would leave the British beachheads and the American beachhead at Utah separated and unable to assist each other, putting the invasion in great peril. The United States 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions are given the task of assaulting the beach, supported by a massive sustained naval bombardment at 05:45 hours. Omaha has to be taken, regardless of the casualties. If you look to the east of the arena, US infantry from the 29th Infantry Division can be seen moving forwards to attack the German defences on the right-hand side of the beach with their weapons. Secure in their fortified positions, the German defenders' heavy machine guns, mortars and small arms subject the Americans to sustained fire, which checks their forward momentum. Without armour support, following the failure to land enough of their DD and deep-wading Shermans onto the beach, the American GIs are suffering. However, despite heavy casualties to the assault troops, which spurred Colonel Canham's famous line, They're murdering us here. Let's move inland and get murdered. The Americans are able to gain a foothold and land enough armor, in this case US armor, to assist in suppressing the defenders by sustained heavy fire, allowing the US infantry to finally rally and engage the German defenders on the bluffs, whose morale finally breaks, forcing them to rout or surrender. Omaha had been a tough, brutal, and bloody assault for the American GIs, and a difficult baptism of fire for the Sherman crews of the 741st, who only managed to land 16 Shermans on shore, a further 27 lying on the seabed. Yet their job was only beginning, and whilst they'd taken the beachhead, it was now vitally important to help secure and enlarge it. Following another naval bombardment, this time by the Royal Navy, the action moves north along the Normandy coast to Sword Beach, at the mouth of the River Orne and the small port of Ouistreham. Here, the British 3rd Infantry Division was given the task of assaulting and quickly silencing German defences on Sword Beach, if the crucial objective transport hub of Caen was to be captured. However, the Germans were aware of this and had moved the 21st Panzer Division, equipped with Panzer Mark IVs nearby, to attempt to drive the British back into the sea. Armoured support for the initial assault wave was supplied by the 27th Independent Armoured Brigade, the 79th Armoured Division, the famous Hobart's Funnies, and consisted of 3 DD duplex drive Sherman regiments, the 13th, 18th Royal Hussars, the 1st East Riding Yeomanry, and the Staffordshire Yeomanry. The 13th, 18th Royal Hussars, with infantry in close support, assaulting the German beach positions at Lyon-sur-Mer. Here we can see British armour, in this case a Stuart light tank from a wrecking unit, move inland and use its firepower to suppress the German positions, forcing them to withdraw. Of this day of days, Allied forces had suffered approximately 10,000 casualties. Now, not only do the Allies have to contend with the dogged German defenders on the beaches, but also the terrain inland. In this case, what the French call the bocage. These were large, thick hedgerows sprouting out of near impenetrable bases of earth, stone and thorn bushes, which themselves were 4 to 6 feet high and virtually insurmountable by armour, with the added danger of exposing the weak belly plate armour to the Germans if the unlucky vehicle was able to crawl over the hedge. Unfortunately for the Allies, the bocage was very extensive in Normandy, being used to separate and protect the fields from the wind. And together with the numerous apple orchards and sunken roads, the terrain beyond the beaches was adept at slowing down attacks and channeling the armour into anti-tank ambushes, which were increasingly deadly with the use of shaped charged weapons such as the single-use Panzerfaust. Whilst the planning for Operation Overlord had been meticulous for the landing, for the US armour moving inland, the scale of this new terrain was completely unexpected, and they were unprepared for the hell of this hedgerow country. But as was usually the case, the solution came from the soldiers on the front line, with the introduction of a simple and effective invention, what would become known as the Cullen device. Devised and constructed in the field by Sergeant Cullen of the US Army, the Cullen device featured a pair of steel prongs, which, when welded to the front of a tank, could be used to dig in and lift the hedges so that tanks could create their own gaps through which to pass and avoid the German anti-tank guns, Panzerfaust, and mines. Here we can see a Sherman using the Cullen device with its prongs to good effect and creating a gap for the armour to push through. The bocage country reinforced the need for close cooperation and mutual support between armour and infantry to nullify the advantages that the terrain provided for the defending German forces. The infantry becoming the eyes and ears, with the tanks offering instant firepower. 18th of July, following a series of offences against the bulk of the German forces in the west, British forces were finally able to capture the city of Caen, a long-held D-Day objective. It had taken 6 weeks of hard fighting, but now the Allies could think about moving on from a war of attrition to one of movement. However, to achieve this, they first had to crack the German defences. The long-awaited breakout was about to begin. On the 25th of July, following a massive aerial bombardment by 3,000 aircraft, the Americans launched Operation Cobra. The breakout was on. It was here on the American southern flank that the Allies had a numerical advantage in both men and armour over the Germans. And whilst the British and Commonwealth forces pinned the Germans to the north, it was the American sector that the breakout would be first achieved. Operation Cobra was essentially over in 3 days. The opportunity was now available for the Allies to encircle as many of the remaining German forces as possible at Falaise and push onwards and liberate France and the Low Countries. The battle for Normandy was over. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings the battle to a close. As we always do here at the Tank Museum, we would ask you to stand and pause for a minute's silence as we remember those who did this for real, who serve us now, and who may have to defend our liberties again in the future. We would also especially like you to spare your thoughts for the young crewmen and their families from the Royal Tank Regiment who recently became casualties in a training exercise. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. In reverent memory of the people of all nations who have given their lives in the cause of patriotism and duty, and who now rest united in God's peace, the peace of reconciliation and of love and brotherhood. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the battle please, a big round of applause to show your appreciation for all those who put this production together and who've been out there enacting events of 73 years ago.